Todd Baxter, employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. District Attorney Sandra, Doorley, employees of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. Alex Renzi, New York State Supreme Court. Paul C. Metz, James Ewing Jr. from Town Court. My name is Chris Chichester. I live in Rochester, New York. I've been in jail 6 times. 6 times the prosecutor's not talked to court. I'm demanding the names of my prosecutors to silence, which you will continue to refuse to disclose to me because you're corrupt. So this is the Freedom of Information Law dated this October 2nd, 2023. Only 17 in there. I have been on here with 70. So, the ones I'm going to read, I'll try to attach these in PDF. I read on September 30th, because here it is right here, September 30th. The ones I'm going to read, I read on September 26th, because there it is right there, before all 17. The ones I'm going to read, I read on September 23rd. So that's 17, 17, 17. It's just 51. You're going to refuse to comply with because you're corrupt. Is the 51 here. 51 plus 17 is 68. You're going to refuse to comply with these two. This is a legally binding document. This is how I acquired your payroll at the sheriff's office and district attorney's office. This is how I know you have employees paid more money than you, Todd Baxter, like $163,000 Michael Fowler and $155,000 Corey Brown and others. So, first parallel. I'm going to read about the grand jury, Michelle Crowley. Please don't answer me, because then I have a case you can be disbarred. I'll pursue disbarment for all my prosecutors to silence, because the freaks and sociopaths are right here, as this is the payroll for the district attorney's office. Perry Douglas, Mark Monahan, Michelle Crowley, Elizabeth Buckley, at the district attorney's office. You know the names of these prosecutors to silence. How am I in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk to court? How am I in jail 6 times and 6 times prosecutor doesn't talk to court? The answer is because of corrupt judges. Paul C. Metz, John P. Lenzo Jr. Town Court, and Alex Renzi, New York State Supreme Court. I said to Alex Renzi that he is corrupt, which I've said to him repeatedly on documentation that has arrived at 99 Exchange Boulevard, which is where he is. I'll be back in front of him and some other hack that you want to force me into at the district attorney's office, sheriff's office, where an employee at the district attorney's office doesn't have to talk for me to deliver to jail. How's that constitutional? I don't believe it is. The freak and sociopath I'm going to name the names of is right here. You will refuse to comply because you're extremists. Extremist is the perfect word for you, because you hate human beings, you hate the human condition, you hate innocence, and you're obsessed with power and control over human beings. That's a reason why you're extremists. So, Freedom of Information Law dated this October 2nd, 2023, the grand jury, Michelle Crowley. Answer me, and please don't. I'm telling you to answer me because it's the moral, ethical, honest, decent thing to do, but you don't have any of those qualities, Michelle Crowley. Why wasn't I called to the grand jury and answer every question here? Freedom of Information Law, information about the grand jury given by District Attorney Sandra, Doorley, 2 Todd, Christopher Chichester, that is 1. Day, month, and year the grand jury is convened. 2, the signed District Attorney's Office employee that addressed the grand jury. 3, the witnesses that testified to the grand jury. 4, the vote of the grand jurors. 5, transcript of the grand jury proceeding. Why do I have to write this? Director of the grand jury, Michelle Crowley. District Attorney Sandra Doyle, I'll never know if you watch me, you party-switching psychopath and freak. But how come I'm not called to the grand jury? Is this your normal practice, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, is to impound a grand jury these 18 to 24 anonymous idiots that you know that you can manipulate, and then the target of the grand jury, the person who's going to be indicted, doesn't know anything about it? How often do you do that to district attorneys? Because I'm confident I'm not the only one, and I know you won't answer me, but the Department of Justice can force an answer from you. So, this is why I have to write this. Can the cops walk onto private property anywhere in the United States of America and hide? Because that's what $73,000 cop freak Michael Huane and $85,000 cop freak Don Benedetto did at the sheriff's office. I leave my residents to go to weapons. Anything they say is a lie, and you will believe anything these lying psychopaths say at the sheriff's office. Anything they tell you at the district attorney's office, your Kool-Aid drinkers will embrace and believe is the truth. So, Benedetto and Huane come running at me. I see them turn around and run away. This happened in 30 seconds. As far as them telling me to stop, I don't give a shit about that. I'm running away the whole time. I get to my back porch. I grab a hammer next to my bicycle. Michael Huane grabs my arm. The hammer goes up like this. I run through the sliding glass door and never stop running. What crime did I commit? The answer is I didn't commit any crime. Michael Huane and Don Benedetto now know they have to come up alive for what they're doing at my residence. And the lie is from Michael Land that I swung a hammer at him. And I'm charged with this attempted felony assault, for which I was in Livingston County Jail. And then when I'm released and brought back to $208,000 Alex Renzi says to me, in New York State Supreme Court, as I'm right in front of him, there's no such thing in the law as attempted felony assault. It's either assault or it's not assault. I don't believe everything this hacking fossil says, but that makes sense to me, because then anything can be attempted. You, Michelle Crowley, can attempt to assault Perry Duckles right there at your office at 47 South Fitzhugh, and then how's that defined? I never stop running. This is why people hate the police. So, I walk into the Temple Public Library. Again, I'm being stalked and followed, just like these freaks hiding on private property, betting they don't own land. Richard J. Seaman, on this day, where you now owe me $61.39, because it's in my pocket when I leave my rents for the last time. I do not know I leave my rents the last time, because Anthony O'Spano is going to lock the door and lock me out, and that's a crime. You have the criminal complaint about this 80-year-old man who speaks in broken English, pretends he doesn't understand things, and he hasn't been arrested. He won't be charged, won't be prosecuted. You know that is a crime to lock the doors on a tenant, lock a tenant out without a court order. So, Richard J. Seaman is why you, Todd Baxter, and Blue Wall Silence. Because it doesn't matter to you that he's a violent freaking psychopath who attacked me. It doesn't matter that he's an extremist. Because you, Todd Baxter, are an extremist. Seaman leave my house with his partner. I walk down Penfield Road, Bad Road. I go into Penfield Public Library. I sit at the back, the last terminal. Seaman walks in. He runs at me, slams his arm into the side of my head. It's the force of his arm hitting me in the head. I fell backwards, and then my head hit the ceramic tile. It's a violent attack upon me that does not matter to you, Sheriff Todd Baxter, at all concerning the embrace of violence. So I had $61.39, and then when Seaman marches me out of the library in front of Paul C. Metzer, there's nobody there from the district attorney's office to make an argument that I committed a crime. Is that constitutional? Perry Duckles, Mark Monahan, Elizabeth Buckley, Michelle Crowley. I don't believe it is. That means Paul C. Metzer can send anybody to jail in the town of Penfield at $36,000. You don't know anything about it at the district attorney's office. Redirect defendants away from Paul C. Metzer and James Lane Jr. Then you're not going to have a conviction integrity unit. Freedom of information law, issuance of a new check to Christopher Chichester, I just spoke for an expired check, amount of $61.39, account of our officer, sheriff, and may fund account that style amount in pocket of Chichester. We violent attack pen for public library 75-904, JC Mount County Sheriff's Office. I'll repeat things. Because corruption requires repetition. So I have to repeat a foil on here. It's for the simple, basic, easy to understand reason that corruption requires repetition. So, now, I have at least 3 prosecutors. Who is it? And you know the names. Because they're on the payroll for the district attorney's office. That's why. Because they're taxpayer-financed public employees. That's why. So, is this Julie Hahn, who's now in Monroe County Court with 17% of the vote, which is not the victor, a joke, an abomination, a disgrace? That you don't think is a joke, an abomination, a disgrace to the district attorney's office. Freedom of information law, documentation of the case for Christopher Chichester and Downtown Court for John P. Leonard Jr. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra? The freaking sociopath is right here. If it's not Julie Hahn, then who is the freaking sociopath on here? Paula Pupatelli, 51173? Is she the employee that's been there since 1992 before Sandra Doorley? I don't know, because that name sounds familiar. You don't want an employee on a payroll because I've been in length of service. It's been there longer than Sandra Doorley in 1991. Sandra Doorley's hired in 1992. Then you have the employees there in 1991. Is that the employee? I don't know. I'm just doing this from memory. But you know, at the district attorney's office, how do you get anybody into that little shack, too? Just satellite offices? So, freedom of information law. This is the 5'2" boy in his 3-piece suit that Regina Harper, the public defender's office, said the prosecutor's not backing down. And I don't know the name of the prosecutor's not backing down. And this prosecutor sent me to Livingston County Jail. And what's his name? Employees at the district attorney's office. Freedom of information law. Documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester, the Penfield Court for Paul C. Metzer. What's the name of the prosecutor? The freaking sociopath that sent me to Livingston County Jail, the same jail that Tops Buffalo mass murder Peyton Gendron was in, is right here. And you can easily tell me 131, 416 Liz Buckley. You can tell me 135, 359 Robin Catalano. And you can tell me 107, 517 Listen True Love. You all can tell me. But what's most important is that this district attorney in Monroe County looks at the foil that I just read for 18 months, and she's refusing because she's corrupt. So who elevated me? Need Alex Renzi. I'll be back in Albany, New York, where I lived in the city for 5 years, Albany County for 10 years. If it wasn't for this freaking sociopath right here, when I'm at my temporary residence, 70 Liberty Pole Way, where they have hearts of gold, after I was evicted by Anthony Ospano without a court order with him breaking the law, I went from 70 Liberty Pole Way to Alex Renzi, and there I am in Monroe County Jail. I'm not going to say why, but I will when I contact the appropriate regulatory authorities in Albany, Washington, D.C. about him. So, because I believe that he is abused the law in the state of New York to examine the contents of my head. This is Dr. Alex Renzi here. He knows he can't get me into Monroe County Jail by just the concoction of a crime with him right there. But he could summon me into New York State Supreme Court and then deliver me to Monroe County Jail just to give me a 7:30 mental health evaluation. Why do you think I'm free? And these can be abused. I'm going to talk about how they were abused. Is it constitutional for Alex Renzi to command me into New York State Supreme Court for the purposes of a 7:30 mental health evaluation? By the way, that employees of the district attorney's office and sheriff's office would be ruled incompetent. One question I was asked that he was used to slam me is how they out to get you. And I ridiculed that question. And there are other questions like that I'm ridiculing where I refuse to answer. I said it's a ridiculous question. I don't know what you're talking about. All they out to get you can rule you incompetent two ways. If you say yes, are they out to get you? You could be a paranoid schizophrenic. If you say no, you're acknowledging the legitimacy of the question. That's ludicrous. Do you understand how these 7:30 mental health evaluations can be abused? And then one evaluator is going to send you to one of these psychiatric centers? I was sent to RPC by a fake, phony, fraudulent document concocted by Dr. Caroline Easton at the Rochester Institute of Technology. Isn't that right, Dr. David Munson, president of RIT? Because I've been in contact with you, and that's why you're copied on here. And this is the first time I've said this on YouTube, because this is a humiliation upon me to be at this place where a man named John thinks he's in a concentration camp. A man named Victor was drooling on himself. Elderly women walking around in their nightgowns. And Policy Metzer knows I was at RPC because you, Todd Baxter, gave him my healthcare records. Freedom of Information Law. And then when Dr. Jeremy Smith talked to me, he said, you shouldn't be here. You're released. So I'm going to tell regulatory power and control over you in Albany and Washington, D.C. Todd Baxter. What is Policy Metzer doing with my healthcare records, and why does Policy Metzer know I was at RPC? Because you gave her my healthcare records. Her exact words to me were you at Rochester Psychiatric Center? How does she know that? Because you told her, that's why. Either verbally or giving her my records. Answer me, Todd Baxter. I'll write this down when I contact the Department of Health, the Office of Mental Health, Federal Department of Health and Human Services, and I believe that that's a federal crime, Todd Baxter. Freedom of Information Law. Quote, defective doctors present call for the case of Dan Glass III for John P. Renzi Jr. Town Court. Sentence me to $28,000 bald-headed widow Policy Metzer, $34,000 James P. Jr. Jermaine Bennett snatched my head back at a gym. I don't fight back. I'm charged with harassment for second, the backseat of $79,000. Andrew Reality's Monroe County Sheriff Paulsville. I appeal before John P. Renzi Jr. I go to Monroe County Jail. Banman, because of a deal between Jessica Wagner and the District Attorney's Office, appears before you, James Foley Jr. I get a subpoena. I'm ordered out of the room immediately. And Jermaine Banman, this violent thug and criminal who attacked me at the gym, walks free. So, there's just sexual harassment at the Sheriff's Office and District Attorney's Office. You should know what the answer is, employees, because you should be able to identify this behavior. Sexual harassment, a man asking a woman out on a date over and over and over, she's under secret, no. Sexual harassment is forcible touching in the office. Sexual harassment is rude, vile, vulgar language, oftentimes lady misogyny, makes it impossible to focus and concentrate in the office. So, Freedom of Information Law. The cost of taxpayers, Monroe County Sheriff Todd Baxter suspended taxpayer also employment-related discrimination lawsuits failed to apply with the House and Civil Rights Act 1964. I use the phrase sexual harassment here, but it's too limiting. So I'm on a payroll here for the Sheriff's Office, Todd Baxter. You can ask Caroline M. Josh at 82428 if she's ever been sexually harassed, if she understands the term, at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. There she is right on the payroll. Or you can ask Thomas M. Rowe, who's paid $129,798. The state of sexual harassment is that female employee ever come to Thomas M. Rowe, your employee makes $3,000 less than you, and talked about sexual harassment. You're not going to do any of this because it doesn't matter, because then you will know that you have these freaks at the sheriff's office, and you don't want anybody to know that you have these freaks at the sheriff's office. I'm trying to find out. Freedom of information law. Cost taxes, Monroe County District Attorney Sandra has expended taxpayer dollars on employment discrimination lawsuits, Federal Collaborative Title 7, Civil Rights Act 1964. So on here, on the second page of the District Attorney's Office, payroll, you have Hillary Langdon at 102,163, Sandra Doorley or Mark Monahan or Perry Duckles or Elizabeth Buck, Michelle Crowley. If Sandra Doorley cared about sexual harassment, she would ask for $102,000 Hillary Langdon. But given her salary, she's empowered within the confines of the office to fend off the sexual harassment predator. Unlike down here, an employee that makes less money than her at Kelly Kenyon at 42,012. So Kelly Kenyon makes $60,000 less than this employee that I just cited, Hillary Langdon. And that $60,000 disparity is why the employee that makes $60,000 less is more vulnerable to sexual harassment. Do you understand the power confines of an office and how this monstrous crime destroys the soul? Should always be identified and expunged from every office that it's in. And, because you're criminals, because you're extremists at the sheriff's office and the attorney's office. Overtime, a time and a half. So on a payroll here, Todd Baxter. This freak, Shannon Meyer, writes a warrant for my arrest for walking through this parking lot here in Penfield, New York, that I've walked in 4,000 times. This freak puts me on a radar screen, Shannon Meyer of the sheriff's office. So the other freaks like Michael Houlihan, Andrew Reale, Don Benedetto can all concoct crimes for me. So this freak, Shannon Meyer, that's right here, that you gave a $16,000 pay raise to, she's paid $83,291.42. Can this freak, Shannon Meyer, who thinks it's a crime to walk through a parking lot, who violates my constitutional rights because I have a 14th Amendment right to walk through a parking lot just like Penfield high school students do, can this freak right here be paid $166,000 and double her salary from $83,000 and make more money than you with time and a half and overtime? What's the answer? You Benito Mussolini skinhead and stooge and party switcher. So, same thing for the other party switcher who doesn't know if she's a Democrat or Republican because she'll say anything. Freedom of information law. Total cost of overtime, time and a half, hour baby on base salaries calculated at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, Sandra Doorley. So, overtime, time and a half. I'll go to the payroll here on the third page of the payroll is Scott Green, $121,988. Can Scott Green at $121,988 be paid more money than Sandra Doorley, $210,000 or not? You know the answer. Employees of the District Attorney's Office. When I worked for Senate Majority Leader Ralph Marino, Governor George Pataki in Albany, and Congressman Mark Smith of Texas, Senator Olympia Snow of Maine, and Washington, D.C., there was no overtime time and after salary. Because the elected officials at that level don't want the liability of overtime in the media, which I'm trying to do to you. So you have here on the payroll, Matthew Sciano at $87,000. Can he double his salary? Matthew Sciano be paid more money than you? Todd Baxter or not? With overtime, time and a half. So excuse me, that's Matthew Sciano. That's the District Attorney's Office for overtime, time and a half. So my private healthcare reps about RPC. Have you been in Rochester Psychiatric Center? Well, I'm not examined by a doctor. I don't have any 730 mental health evaluation. That's exactly what Paul C. Metzler asked me. Freedom of information law. Copy of the private healthcare records delivered to $28,000 Penfield Town Court Judge Paul C. Metzler by Sheriff Todd Baxter in violation of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996. Well, I would go to meetings of the House Judiciary Committee, which at the time was chaired by Congressman James Sensenbrenner of Wisconsin. When they would have the full committee of the 40 members there, they would occasionally talk about privacy and healthcare records. I believe this is a federal crime, Todd Baxter. How does this $28,000 bald-headed widow, Paul C. Metzler, know I was at RPC because you gave her my healthcare records? Paul C. Metzler, when I contact you, when I put this in writing, and when I contact the Office of Mental Health, Department of Health, Department of Health and Human Services, what's your answer? Are you going to exist in I don't know? Are you going to be the idiot queen of I don't know? So, Baxter, what does a surveillance device do? It captures images of human beings, and the Central Intelligence Agency uses them. And here's one right here, 2025 Penfield Road that you were lying about for a business called Consumer Insights. Well, your office is the president. Surveillance device. And me using the phrase surveillance device, you freaks and sociopaths, extremists at the sheriff's office called Lindsay Bound, a Monroe County Office of Mental Health in my residence. The public defender's office sent me the images. This is private technology at 2025 Penfield Road for this business called Consumer Insights. Well, you lost the president. You buy it, fix it for me, and you refuse to answer because you're extremists. Freedom of information, the cost of a surveillance device purchased with taxpayer dollars and fixed to a building at 2025 Penfield Road, monitor just for charge history. Wall Street parking lot next to the building, and that's the lunatic fringe, Benito Mussolini skinhead Sheriff Todd Baxter. Photography session, ridiculous, ludicrous. The employees right here. Photography session. I don't care if it's a private event. It's just tax dollars. I believe you would even refuse to tell Thomas B. DiNapoli. When it's violence on North Clinton Avenue, here are your 10 Monroe County Sheriff Office employees underwater in a pool. When there's a man set on fire by psychopathias on Lyle Avenue, here's your employees underwater in a pool. When there's crime all over Monroe County, real violent crime, here's your employees underwater in a pool. You believe Mussolini skinhead. So, the cost for a photography session approved by Monroe County Sheriff Todd Baxter, photo of 10 Monroe County Sheriff Office employees underwater in a pool. And here he is, Ryan Fisher in Atlanta, Georgia. That's Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Here's the canine dog Lola. Here's Rambo Ryan Fisher, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office in Atlanta, Georgia, out of Monroe County, out of the state of New York, in Deep South. Ridiculous, ludicrous. They did not change that Stars and Bars in 2003. I used to see that when I was in 104th Airborne Division at Fort Campbell. 41A goes by the 101st that connects Clarksville, Tennessee to Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And my roommate, his name was Anthony O'Neill, and Anthony was from Los Angeles, California. And we're only 19 and 20 years old. And we talk about it in ways that you do when you don't fully, completely understand political symbols, which is what that is. It's a political symbol of racism and segregation, Stars and Bars. And I remember saying to him, I really don't get that. There's the United States flag. There's no stars and bars of all the flags that are on Fort Campbell anywhere. But they were on 41A. And they would be in Tennessee and Kentucky. I would see it frequently enough where I would just think, what is wrong with these people? So, cost for hotel plane ticket from Monroe County Sheriff Office employee Ryan Fisher, Tennessee, Ball, Atlanta, Georgia, with his canine dog roll. Ridiculous. Where did his dog stay? Did his dog stay with him at the hotel or not? So, there's Alex Renzi. You have clerks. He's going to look at this when this arrives in his office. He's going to think, I want to send him to jail because Alex Renzi is an extremist. Freedom of information law, the name of salaries of every public employee in the United States Supreme Court and the supervisor Judge Alex Renzi, 99 St. Boulevard, Rochester, New York, 14604, and tell me what the answer is. So, the old lady at the window in Penfield Court, a ridiculous joke. I had a mind-blowing, ridiculous joke that you allow and force defendants into these two hacks and fossils that are about 70 years old, where there is no jury of 12, there is no witness box for testimony, there's not even a table for a defense attorney and public defender, there's not even a table for a prosecutor to sit at. You debase yourselves when you go in there and grovel before these two, Paul C. Messer and James Lane Jr. What's the old lady at the window paid? Is the old lady at the window paid? Is she a clerk? What's her title? Does she make more money than you? $28,000 bald-headed widow Paul C. Messer, more money than you, $34,000 James Lane Jr. I want to see your financial disclosures too. I have not written that yet for Penfield Court. They will refuse. This is another thing why it's extremism and corruption. When I send a financial disclosure for Paul C. Messer and James Lane Jr. on Penfield Court, they'll refuse to comply. You, Sandra Doorley, send me your financial disclosure. Where you have no money. Todd Baxter also refused. And I got a ridiculous email a while ago, this is about 6 months ago, where he said he needed more time. And this is just his way of refusing. Where's your money, Todd Baxter? When I send the financial disclosure form, it's going to be the Freedom of Information Law in the next week to 10 days, you'll still refuse. And I'll have this as a record of saying it. And then when I contact Thomas B. DiNapoli, where I'm trying to convince him to audit you, I'll say this Benito Mussolini skinhead stooge and criminal and psychopath and extremist Todd Baxter won't even send me his financial disclosure. Freedom of Information Law. Financial salaries of every public employee in Penfield Court does the old lady at the window receive more paying tax dollars and $28,000 policy, that's $34,000. James Lane Jr. The contract signed via weapons. I'm not trying to engage in any hyperbole exaggeration. I believe this can remove you from office. It's not a security issue, and that's going to be your lie and your reason and your rationale to refuse to disclose this information to me. When it arrives, registered mail return receipt, you'll sign, you'll look at it, Todd Baxter. The contract for the weapons, who is it? Who's the contract? You have multiple contractors. How many weapons do you have? Freedom of Information Law. The contract signed by Sheriff Todd Baxter to purchase firearms from Monroe County Sheriff Office employees to include 1, the name of the firearms contract, 2, the number of firearms purchased, 3, the total amount of taxpayers dollars to purchase. firearms. So you have all 17 there that I just read, and you're going to refuse to comply with every single one, like you have done previously with me with the Freedom of Information Law documentations I just held up for you. This is the fourth time in the last 10 days that I read those foils, those 17, and every single one you're going to refuse to comply with. You know why? Because you're corrupt. That's why. So, August 29, 2023 is just Julie Hahn. It's not Julie Hahn. Are you the prosecutor unable to talk about town court for my appearance for $34,000 John Clemenza Jr. delivered to Monroe County Jail? The 50 attachments include language I've used for 18 months, demanding names on prosecutor silence from your former boss, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. This nightmare for the citizens of Monroe County is refused every single time to honor law, and that fact is why she's corrupt. No citizen should ever be deposited in jail and prosecutor and talk in court. I've been inmate in Monroe County Jail, Livingston County Jail, total 6 times prosecutor talk in court. That's insane. Links here, names, hideous, averse, heinous, TikTok, corrupt, at Perry Douglas. Names right here. Sheriff Todd, Baxter, District Attorney Sandra, Judge Alex Renzi. I'm telling you on this August 28th. Names. Tell me who it is, because the appellate division of State Supreme Court is where attorneys are disbarred. This is July 20th. Perry Douglas, Mark Monahan. I'm communicating with you on this YouTube page. Mail the names of my prosecutor, silence the address listed below on Park Avenue. Attached to Freedom of Information Law documents dated July 20th, 2023. This language. The three that I just read on here, the documentation for all three of these psychopath judges. You refuse to disclose the names of the prosecutor signs my concocted criminal charges, each responsible for fiction and lies, deposit me in jail 6 times. You know the names of these hacks, sociopaths, and freaks. How's a citizen in jail anyway? State of New York prosecutor and talk in court. Rejection unconstitutional. There's 2 links there. Last graph. I'll tell you what will happen to me. Psychopath stink at the sheriff's office under his bald-headed being Mussolini clone. Todd K. Baxter will drive up to me when I'm walking in Monroe County. I'll be taken to a corrupt judge. I'll be declared guilty of alleged fiction and lies. I'll languish in jail. I'm not told a sentence. I don't have civil and constitutional rights. I don't have due process because your boss, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, is a criminal. Christopher Chance, 620 Park Avenue, PM at 361 Rochester, 14624. This exact thing will happen to me. I'll leave here. There'll be some psychopaths, some freaks, some extremists at the sheriff's office waiting for me. Some ridiculous warrant concoction lie written by the district attorney's office, some judge. Take it to this judge, declared guilty, and I'll languish to jail again. This exact thing will happen to me. So, Perry Douglas. Deputy District Attorney Perry Douglas of Monroe County. My name is Christopher Chichester. I live in Rochester, New York. I have been in jail 6 times, and 6 times the prosecutor's not talked in court. What are the names of my prosecutors, Perry Douglas? I contacted you on January 1, 2023, and demanded of you in writing that you disclose the names of my prosecutors in silence. Why did you refuse, Perry Douglas? The answer is that you're corrupt. Everything I'm going to say here to you, I've said to Julie Siak of the Monroe County Public Defender's Office. This is why the Monroe County Public Defender's Office is corrupt. They'll refuse to disclose the names of my prosecutors as well. Mark Phillips of the Public Defender's Office, Regina Harper Public Defender's Office, sent my mail back to me and refused to open it because each knows I'm demanding of them what I'm demanding of you right now, Perry Douglas. How is any citizen in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk in court? My 50th birthday, July 4, 2015, I have a speeding ticket in my place of employment in Albany, New York, a speeding ticket in my place of employment in Washington, D.C., and both was dismissed when I went to court. Does it matter, Perry Douglas? I have always known the difference between legal and illegal, right and wrong. Every single criminal charge for me is a fiction, is a lie, is the fantasy land of the heads of these corrupt cops employed by Todd Baxter, and he's the corrupt cop in Monroe County. That's why prosecutors talk in court, Perry Douglas, because a prosecutor can't make an argument for fiction and lies that have destroyed my life. Perry Douglas, what are the names of my prosecutors of silence? You'll refuse. Julie Siaka, the Public Defender's Office, will refuse. That's insane. How is any citizen in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk in court, and that's why your boss, Sandra Doorley, doesn't know if she's a Democrat or Republican, had to form a conviction integrity unit, and what does this contraption do? Perry Douglas, how do you look at documentation that is in your office in your name that I sent via Federal Express or registered mail return receipt at UPS to you, to your fellow assistant district attorneys? How do you look at the Freedom of Information law where it says to identify my process of silence and then refuse? It's because you're corrupt and unethical. How does your boss, Sandra Doorley, look right at that FOIL, Freedom of Information law, and refuse to disclose the names of my prosecutors? Because she's corrupt and because she's unethical. Perry Douglas, Christopher.Chichester@mail.com. Mail the names of my prosecutors of silence to that mail.com address, and you will refuse Deputy District Attorney Perry Douglas because you're corrupt and unethical. My name is Christopher Chichester. I live in Rochester, New York. I have been an innocent man my whole life.